Our talk today is about healing. Healing is at the heart of Unity teachings. It was Myrtle Fillmore's miraculous recovery from the death sentence disease of tuberculosis that led her and Charles to found our spiritual community. We all know about how she had her epiphany after a Christian Science meeting, and having been sickly with numerous ailments that had run in her family, declared, "I am a child of God, and therefore do not inherit illness." She prayed, spoke affirmations and declarations, and was healed. We look to the Bible and see lots of healing stories. One of a woman who just touched Jesus' cloak, and poof, she was healed. Heck, with the word, Lazarus was raised from the dead. I don't see stories like that in the news these days. Do you? And yet Jesus told us, "This and greater ye shall do." The healing powers Jesus used in his ministry were mighty indeed, and they are available to all of us. So we're going to talk about what healing really means, what your healing superpowers really are, and how you can tune into and work with them each and every day. We all know that at its root, healing means to make whole. And convenient for our talk today, it's a cognate of the word holy. We're conditioned to think of healing in terms of overcoming a challenge we're having with our bodies. But that's not all of it, and the body isn't ultimately the cause or the answer. The cause and the answer lie in consciousness. True healing is really knowing yourself as an expression of God on earth, living fully from the Christ within, remembering your inherent and perfect wholeness, fully knowing yourself as a complete piece of the hologram of the all that is. When our consciousness is wholly identified with the Christ within, with our true perfection, we are healed. So healing is remembering the truth of our wholeness, our oneness with God and all that is. Then what is it that we're really healing? The body? Our emotions? No. What we're really healing, no matter what the symptom, is our mistaken idea that we are separate from God. Somehow incomplete, inadequate, not whole. This leaves us separate from our truth, from what we desire in life, separate from our healing, our prosperity, and from other people. Separation is really the only error in thought and the only thing to heal. One of the main methods I use in my healing practice was actually developed by a Unity minister, Robert Detzler, an amazing man. It was working with this that separation is the root of pretty much all discord, disease, and suffering really hit home for me. It shows up as the key for everyone I work with. And with it, we clear beliefs, perceptions, judgments, and discordant energies that contribute to that sense of separation and result from it. The healing that we see on all levels is amazing, and sometimes what can only be called miraculous. We become so conditioned to identify with our separate individual body or personality that remembering our truth is no simple task. Everywhere we're being told that we're insufficient, not enough, that we need to buy, do, or learn X, Y, or Z in order to be enough. It takes tremendous commitment and dedication to move our default from identifying with the perception of separateness to the truth of our oneness. When we do, however, literally everything changes. Our thoughts, emotions, bodies, relationships, prosperity, work, the way we see the world, everything. The opportunity for us to heal, to know this truth that sets us free, is ever present and all around us. Eric Butterworth calls it the healing stream. Whether we know it or not, feel it or not, believe in it or not, we're always in it. Always. We can't leave the stream, we can't turn it off or tell it to go away. It's our constant invitation to wholeness in every aspect of our being, physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, and every aspect of our lives and of our world. Our opportunity to know this, it's our chance to claim it and to co-create with it. The crux of the idea behind the healing stream is that God is everywhere present, part of our first principle. Butterworth writes that God is a presence that is ever present and all present. To put it in its most complete sense, God is an allness in which I exist and you exist as an eachness. So like a hologram, even the tiniest bit of you, one little cell, your little fingernail, contains the allness of God. Sit with that a minute. It's easy to hear this and go, yeah, that's cool. But really take it in. Feel it in your body. Every tiny bit of you contains the allness of God. Often, like with Myrtle Fillmore, Emily Cady, Emma Curtis Hopkins, so many others, this healing in consciousness changes the body and relieves or cures what ails. Even when it doesn't create a medical cure, though, our consciousness in relation to the experience of the body changes. Because we see it as simply that, an experience of the body, not our truth. So how do we access and make use of this healing stream? Myrtle Fillmore's experience is so perfect here that even though I know you're familiar with it, it bears repeating. She was told that she had 6 months to live. She went to a meeting and awakened to the truth of her innate potential for divine healing through affirmative prayer. And she got it, not just in her mind, but in every cell, every particle of her being. Here's what she wrote about her experience. There is nothing in human language able to express the vastness of my possibilities as they unrolled before me. The physical claims that had been considered such a serious nature faded away before the dawning of this new consciousness. And I found that my body temple had been literally transformed through the renewing of my mind. She then began to teach her body that it was well. She wrote, I told the life in my liver that it was not torpid or inert, but full of vigor and energy. I told the life in my stomach that it was not weak or inefficient, but energetic, strong, and intelligent. I told my eyes that they did not see of themselves, but they expressed the sight of spirit, and that they were drawing on an unlimited source. I told my heart that the pure love of Jesus Christ flowed in and out through its beatings, and that all the world felt its joyous pulsations. I went to all the life centers of my body and spoke words of truth to them, words of strength and power. I asked their forgiveness for the foolish, ignorant course that I had pursued in the past, when I condemned them and called them weak, inefficient, and diseased. I did not become discouraged at their being slow to wake up, but kept right on, both silently and aloud, declaring the words of truth until the organs responded. She did this for hours every day, and she did it from the place of knowing the allness that lived in her eachness. Now, I'm going to admit something to you, which is that when I first started studying healing principles in Unity and generally in the New Thought schools, I found them simplistic. And with my training as a naturopathic doctor, almost an insult to my intelligence. Think positive, deny illness, pray and you'll be healed. It didn't make sense, and it actually sounded kind of like dangerous wishful thinking. But I see why it catches on, because it's easy. And it puts someone else in charge, and out there, God. But that's not what this is. This is not what Myrtle Fillmore did, and certainly is not what Jesus was doing with his healing miracles. If anyone totally knew their allness, the fullness of the expression of God within, it was Jesus. Richard Rohr, an absolutely brilliant and humble Franciscan priest, wrote on his blog recently about the apparent paradox of Jesus being both fully divine and fully human, and the difficulty we humans and Christians have in holding these two together. He laments the tendency just to think of Jesus as divine, which is reinforced by a lot of the teachings. The price we pay, he says, is when we deny what Jesus holds together. We can't put it together ourselves. And that's the whole point. You and I are also daughters of God and daughters of earth, sons of heaven and sons of this world. Both are true at the same time. We need a model, an exemplar, a promise, and a guarantee, all words used in the Pauline letters, to imagine such a far-off impossibility. For us, that model is Jesus. This is how Jesus causes our salvation or healing. It's not a magic act accomplished by moral behavior, rather it's a gradual realization of who we are, and always have been, and will be eternally. Our salvation, our healing, is our living into the allness in each of us, the Christ within. So with Jesus as our model for how to live as a human fully aware of our divinity, our true healing is holding, praying, declaring, relating, and operating from the allness consciousness, the I am consciousness, the Christ consciousness. For most of us, this is something we experience here and there, not 24/7. And this is the difference between us and Jesus. But make no mistake, it's not just in us, it is us. When we pray, affirm, deny, or declare from this place, it is done. When I began my healing journey, I knew nothing about nothing. I had been an atheist since ditching the Catholic Church 20 years earlier, and had no spiritual grounding. But in case you think it is impossible for those who haven't studied the truth teachings, think again. God, the healing stream, is everywhere present for everyone, and when we are ready, it is there. I've been running a big consulting company in Moscow. I had 200 people working for me, and my clients were the Russian oligarchs, government ministers, and CEOs of multinational corporations. I was living what my friends call the type A squared life, and while I was super successful on the outside, inside I was depressed to the point of suicide. And truly, if it weren't for my cat showing up at just the right time, I would not be here today. I was led through what could only have been orchestrated by forces way, way beyond me to a holistic doctor and spiritual teacher in Arizona. And because I literally had nothing left, I surrendered. My mind and my body were beat. I had no strength or energy to keep up the facade of a separate identity, or my personality as all the things I thought I was, the beliefs and habits and ideas that define the person who called herself Katherine. I learned to meditate and started doing yoga, and since my sense of I had totally fallen apart, I was open to receive the truth. During my second week there, I started waking up knowing things I had never read or been told, but somehow just knew to be true, and realizing that things I believed all my life weren't really true. And somehow this all happened with such grace that even though my world was turning upside down and inside out, it felt smooth and natural. During my fourth week there, I was really getting into meditating. And one afternoon when we did a Shakti Path, which is an energy transfer from a teacher, I cracked open and had my first awakening experience. All notion of me as separate from anything in the universe was gone. And for 3 days, I knew myself and knew God in each blade of grass, each stone, the salad I ate at lunch, and in the people that just a day earlier I had found so annoying. I experienced my truth, and it did set me free. I was fully in the flow of the healing stream, and my body and life changed fundamentally and dramatically. There was another year or so of support for my body and integrating this new consciousness, but a shift had occurred that could never be reversed. By the next week, I knew that I wanted to leave my career as a business consultant and become a naturopathic doctor, and to commit myself to my spiritual life and growth. Interestingly, when I told Gabriel, my teacher, of my desires, and I asked him, oh so earnestly, what should I be reading to become more spiritual? He looked me deeply in the eyes, like he was just looking into my soul. And he said, Katherine, you should read absolutely nothing. I was startled and confused, but what he meant was that if I was reading, I was intellectualizing my spirituality. What moves us forward unconsciously is ultimately the direct relationship we create with God, the personal experience we create with the Christ within. Of course, I have and do read plenty, but I've never forgotten that it's the nurturing of my relationship with God, dipping into that healing stream again and again and again that brings us home. And our journey of healing never really ends. We think about it and focus on it when something obvious is wrong, I'm sick or depressed or whatever. But since healing is moving into remembering, living our wholeness, it's not just about fixing a perceived problem. It's about building the muscle of identifying with the truth of the Christ within, rather than the false sense of a separate self. Yeah? This is why our daily practices are so important and so fruitful, even though it may not always feel like it. The more we get into the flow of the healing stream, the easier it is to access. The more we do it when things are good or at least okay, the more likely we'll be able to get there when we're feeling crummy, or if it just seems like everything's going to hell. You can do this so many different ways. Pray, meditate, affirm, declare, dance, paint, whatever calls to you. The key is to do it from your wholeness, from your heart, from the knowing of your truth. And if you can't find it some days, pretend. The same way that fake laughing leads you to real laughter, pretending will help you find that place again. I've made a sheet with some beautiful affirmations and denials and quotations from Unity writers and teachers. I'll put it back at the ushers table and you can pick it up when you go to fellowship. If they speak to you, these can be an entry point to the healing stream for you. If they don't, then visit Emily Katie's Lessons in Truth, Emma Curtis Hopkins' word writings, Eric Butterworth's In the Flow of Life, Myrtle Fillmore's Healing Letters, James Scott's Writings and Meditations, the Unity Heal Guide to Healing, or any other of the amazing, yummy resources we have. So we've talked for a few minutes about all your healing powers, and we haven't really touched on why you want to do this anyway. In this room, knowing you all, I can safely say that one reason is your simple desire to know God and to live from that place. But that's not enough for everyone, and maybe that's not enough of a motivation for you to dip into the healing stream every day. If it's not, think of this. As you heal yourself, become more and more of your truth, you help others do the same. Even if you don't become a professional healer, you are a healer. You're a beacon, a reminder for others. And as you engage in our confused and fractured and tumultuous world, you do so from a place of greater peace and truth. You become a force of peace and love, not fear and separation. And God knows we need more of that in our world. I was reading a biography of Amy Semple McPherson. She's a fascinating Pentecostal evangelical preacher and healer in the 1920s and 30s. And I was really struck by an observation she made. She wondered at how common faith healing and the laying on of hands was in Jesus' day, and how it was so much a part of his ministry. And how even after his death, his disciples were touched by the Holy Spirit and went on to heal and prophecy themselves, even when they were being persecuted. And then the practice just went dark for centuries. Amy's idea was that as Christianity became more about the church and rules and regulations and moral codes, people lost their experience of God. It became about going to a church, studying something, obeying the rules. They lost touch with the sense that God was always with them and could touch them at any moment. Healing, having a true experience of God, was a lot of how Christianity spread so far and took root so deeply among so many people. Like Richard Rohr said, people were aware of Jesus as divine and human, and as a model for who they too could be. So as you go home, Remember that stepping into the healing stream, continuing to cultivate your own knowing of your truth as an expression of divine humanity, living more from the Christ consciousness within us, is all your healing, and is what will ultimately awaken the kingdom of God on our earth. Thank you, and God bless. And we'll move into So we'll close our eyes and become quiet now. Slowly become aware of your breath, gently flowing in and out of your body. And become aware of your body, a perfect expression of divine substance. Release your thoughts of the world outside you and invite the awareness of spirit within. Feel the calm, the quiet, and the peace. We call upon the Christ presence, the I am consciousness within, to awaken, to flow, to move, and to heal. Whatever we may be experiencing in our bodies, our minds, our lives, we bring it up now and offer it to the healing stream, to God's love. God is healing you now. It's occurring at this very moment, whether you know it or not, whether you feel it or not. You don't even need to be aware of how it's happening. Simply relax, let go, and be assured it is being done. God is healing me now. My thoughts, my emotions, my body, and my life. God is healing me now. Allow the healing stream of the Christ to flow through you. Rest in this peace. Enjoy this peace. And meditate in the peace of your truth. God is healing me now. you slowly come back to the room, feel your body in the flow of the divine love within and all around you. With a nice deep breath, become present to your seat, to your feet on the floor. We thank God for the healing we